A millionaire came home and saw his black maid in his bathtub. The obvious happened. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from today. The key to the big front door got stuck, just like it did 12 years ago. Some things never change. The old West mansion still had the same tricky lock. Maximilian West's dad, Victor West, probably never fixed it just because he didn't want to. Maximilian was just like him in that way, very stubborn. "Come on," Maximilian said softly, jiggling the key with just the right push and pull he remembered from when he was a teenager. Finally, the lock clicked, and the heavy wooden door opened. He stepped into the huge hallway of the house he grew up in. The air inside felt very still and quiet, like a place too big and too empty. Little specks of dust danced in the sunlight coming through the tall windows. Everything looked just like he remembered: the big staircase, the shiny chandelier, and the fancy paintings his dad loved. It was like a picture of the past, filled with riches, but also loneliness. Maximilian fixed his fancy suit jacket. It was more to protect himself than to stay warm. He didn't really want to be here, not after the big fight he had with his dad years ago. But now his dad had passed away, and Maximilian had to come back to take care of things. 3 hours. He told the empty house, "Sign the papers, check the safe, and I'm out of here." That's when he heard something. There was splashing and singing. Someone was singing a Whitney Houston song very loudly and happily. It wasn't perfect, but the person sure had energy. The sound came from upstairs, from his dad's bedroom. Maximilian moved quickly, going up the stairs. His fancy shoes made little clicks on the marble steps. The singing got louder, and along with the sound of the bathtub jets. He opened the big double doors to the bedroom, ready to see who had taken over his dad's space. But what he saw made him freeze. The big marble bathtub was full of bubbles, almost spilling onto the floor. And right in the middle of it all was a woman. She had slices of cucumber on her eyes, her hair was up in a messy bun, and she was swaying to the music. "And when the night falls," she sang, adding funny little extra notes. Maximilian cleared his throat. Nothing. He tried again, louder. Still nothing. He finally said, "Interesting way to use employee time." The woman jumped. Cucumbers flew into the air, her arms splashed the bubbles, and she let out a loud "Yah!" that was not part of the song. She looked at him, shocked. Then her eyes got narrow and she smiled a little. "Oh," she said, "you must be the famous son. I was starting to think you were a made-up story, like Bigfoot or good Wi-Fi in this old house." Maximilian blinked. She didn't seem embarrassed at all. "I'm sorry, you are?" "Sienna Caldwell," she said, grabbing a towel while somehow staying covered in calm. "I'm the new housekeeper. Well, actually the only housekeeper. Your dad never hired anyone after he fired my mom." There was something in her voice that said this meant a lot to her. Maximilian made a note to ask about that later, and he also realized something else. She looked like the kind of woman who always brought trouble. Beautiful, not impressed with his money, and not afraid of him. "Miss Caldwell," he said in a serious voice, "I don't know what deal you had with my dad, but the house is being sold. You need to find a new job by the end of the week." Sienna stepped out of the tub, wrapped in a soft towel. Water drops rolled down her arms, but she stood tall like a queen. "Funny you say that," she said, going to where her clothes were folded neatly. "Your dad's will says the house staff stays for 6 months after he's gone. Something about keeping the house nice for selling. I have the papers in my room if you want to see them." She smiled again. "You didn't read the whole will yet, did you?" Maximilian's jaw tightened. No, he hadn't. He just wanted to leave quickly. Of course, his dad would make things harder, even after he was gone. 3 months, Maximilian offered, trying to bargain. 6 months, Sienna said right away. "I keep my job, I get full pay, and I keep using the jacuzzi. That thing is magic for sore muscles. Also, someone has to clean the east wing, and the floors won't mop themselves." Maximilian felt a smile trying to sneak onto his face. He stopped it. "The jacuzzi isn't part of Standard rich people bathroom stuff? She asked. Please. Nothing about this place is normal. She picked up her clothes and cucumbers. Also, your dad had great taste in music speakers. The singing in that bathroom sounds like a concert. Then she walked past him into the dressing room, smelling like lavender bubble bath, and leaving Maximilian wondering what just happened. 6 months, he called after her. He didn't like giving in, but he knew he'd lost this time. Smart man, her voice answered. I'm making dinner at 7. I can't cook, but I make it fun. Maximilian stood still for a moment, looking at the bubbles in the tub. He had planned to fly back to Silicon Valley tonight. Instead, he was looking at his watch, wondering what kind of mess she'd make in the kitchen. His dad used to say, Maximilian had a soft spot for hopeless causes. But watching the last bubble pop, Maximilian felt that Sienna wasn't the lost one. He was. Maximilian tried to work in his dad's study for the next 2 hours, but he kept remembering things. The last time he sat in that chair, he was 23, fresh out of Stanford, full of ideas. His dad had said his plans were just silly dreams. Now, 12 years and 3 big companies later, Maximilian touched the leather chair and wondered if his dad ever regretted saying that. Then a loud sound broke the silence. Beep, beep, beep! Everything's fine, Sienna yelled from the kitchen, totally under control. Maximilian rushed in and found smoke coming from a pan. Sienna was waving a towel around, trying to stop the alarm, dancing in his dad's old apron. Let me guess, Maximilian said, turning off the stove. You weren't kidding about not cooking. I like to call it performance art, Sienna said, smiling. Also, your dad's kitchen is too fancy. Who needs 6 kinds of whisks? Says the woman who used a $3,000 bathtub. That's different. Jacuzzis are for stress, especially after dealing with rich people like you. She handed him a cutting board. Now help me. I could just order food. Nope, she said. Your dad ate takeout every day. Tonight we cook, even if it's a disaster. Maximilian looked at his watch. Nope, she repeated. We're doing this. It's a bonding thing. You can tell me all about your tech stuff, and I'll pretend I know what it means. She pulled a small card from a cookbook. I found your grandma's pasta sauce recipe. It says basil, red sauce, and a pinch of magic. Probably just wine, she added, smiling. Want to show me how it's done? 20 minutes later, Maximilian was cutting tomatoes while Sienna chopped garlic. They stood close together, bumping shoulders now and then. The kitchen smelled like the past. Olive oil, fresh herbs, and tomato sauce. So, Sienna said, 3 big companies by 35. Not bad for silly dreams. Maximilian paused. You heard about that? Your dad talked about you sometimes. Late at night, when he thought I wasn't around, he kept every news article about you. There's a folder in his desk. Maximilian felt something tight in his chest. He never called, he said. You seem to know a lot about my family. You learn things when you work in a house long enough, she said, dropping garlic into the pot. Like how your dad sat in that leather chair every night, drinking bourbon and looking at your graduation photo. Is this where you say he was secretly proud? Maximilian asked sharply. No. This is where I say he was stubborn and didn't know how to fix things, just like I'm the daughter of a woman who got fired unfairly. They looked at each other. For a moment, the kitchen felt warm and small. Maximilian noticed the tiny scar above her eyebrow, the curls falling from her bun, and the flour on her cheek. Then the sauce bubbled too much. Sienna cursed and grabbed the pot, knocking over a jar of spoons. Maximilian caught her arm just in time, and they ended up very close, reaching for the stove. I thought you had this under control, he whispered. I lied, she whispered back, but only about small stuff. Before he could say anything, she moved away and grabbed a wine bottle. Let's see if this magic is really just wine, she said, pouring it into the sauce. Maximilian watched her. She was brave and funny and not afraid to speak her mind. She saw right through him, and she knew it. Taste, she said, holding out a spoon. He did, and the memories came rushing back. Sunday dinners, his grandma's laugh, and the way his dad used to smile before everything got hard. "Well?" Sienna asked softly. "It's missing something," Maximilian said, reaching past Sienna to get the basil. Their fingers touched as he dropped the green leaves into the pot. "Sometimes," he said, "the magic isn't just in the recipe. It's in the memories we bring to it now." "Who's being dangerous?" Sienna whispered. The way they looked at each other had nothing to do with cooking. 3 days after they cooked together, Maximilian stood in the doorway of the study. He watched Sienna sort through his father's old papers. She was doing it very quickly and neatly, which surprised him. She wasn't wearing her usual comfy clothes. Instead, she wore a white blouse and dark jeans. Her hair was tied into a braid. "My serious business look," she had said that morning with a smile. "Your father," she said now, holding up a bunch of receipts, "was the most organized and the most messy person I've ever seen. Who keeps every coffee receipt from 1997 but doesn't do their taxes right?" "That sounds like him," Maximilian said, walking to the big, shiny desk. He touched its smooth surface. He used to say details were everything, but only the right ones. "Ah, yes, the famous Victor West wisdom," Sienna said, rolling her eyes. "Did he also say that excellence isn't earned but inherited?" "That was one of his favorites," Maximilian said. He heard the unhappy tone in her voice. Lately, he had started to notice small changes in how she spoke, how her voice got sharp when she talked about his father and soft when she tried to hide her feelings. It felt dangerous to understand her so well. "Find anything interesting?" he asked, trying to change the topic. "Besides your teenage report cards?" "All A's, except for 1 B+ in PE. Someone was a perfectionist!" "Let me see those." "Nope," she said, tucking the papers into her back pocket with a grin. "These are going into my blackmail folder." Their fingers touched again as he tried to grab the papers. They were close now. He could smell her lavender shampoo. Sienna's smile faded just a little. Their eyes met, and Maximilian felt his chest tighten. She stepped back and cleared her throat. "Anyway, most of these papers are normal business stuff," she said. Then she paused and pulled out a big yellow folder. "But there's this." The folder was labeled Protocol 23 Personnel. "I found it in the safe behind that ugly painting with the deer," Sienna said. "Your father's combination was your birthday, by the way. For someone who loved security, he was weirdly sentimental." Maximilian took the folder. He felt something heavy in his stomach. He remembered Protocol 23. His dad talked about it during dinners, always very seriously. It was about secret company stuff. "Did you look inside?" he asked. Sienna shook her head. "Didn't feel right," she said. "But," she bit her lip, "my mom's firing papers would be in the personnel files." The room got quiet. Maximilian opened the folder. Papers spilled everywhere. Memos, reports, and then a firing notice dated 15 years ago. It had Isabella Caldwell's name and his father's signature. "My mom never talked about what happened," Sienna said quietly. "One day she came home crying, packed her things, and took another job for half the money. I was 14. Maximilian read the paper. His frown grew. "This says she was fired for losing important company files," he said. "That's a lie," Sienna said calmly. "My mom color-coded her grocery lists. She checked everything 3 times. She would never lose files." "Wait," Maximilian said, pulling out another memo. It had "confidential" written in red ink. As he read it, the color left his face. "This is a cover-up." "What?" "The documents weren't lost. They were destroyed on purpose." Maximilian spread the papers on the desk. "My father was being investigated for cheating in the stock market. These memos show how he got rid of the proof. Your mom wasn't careless. She was a scapegoat." "She was blamed to protect him," Sienna finished. Her hands were shaking as she picked up a memo. "He ruined her life to save himself." The room was silent. Maximilian watched her face go from surprise to angry, then to something sadder. "All these years," she whispered, "she thought it was her fault. She took medicine for anxiety. She couldn't sleep. and he just lived here drinking fancy drinks and buying art. Sienna, don't. She stepped back as he tried to touch her. Your father ruined her career and reputation, she said. Do you know how hard it is to find a good job when someone powerful says you're bad at it? I didn't know. Would it have mattered? Her eyes were shiny with tears. You're just like him, living in your tech world thinking money fixes everything. What did you offer me on the first day? 3 months' salary to go away? Each word hurt Maximilian like a punch. He wanted to explain that he wasn't like his father, that he had left because he hated what his father did. But looking at Sienna, strong Sienna, holding the papers that hurt her mom, he knew nothing he said would sound right. I need the rest of the day off, she said, her voice flat. I have to talk to my mom. Of course, take all the time you need. And I'll be using the jacuzzi again tonight, she added with a tiny smile that didn't reach her eyes. Because right now I really need those magical bubbles you make fun of. She left him in the study, surrounded by proof of his father's lies. Maximilian picked up one of the memos and stared at his father's bold signature. The same signature that was on birthday cards, report cards, and the will that said Sienna had to stay in the house. Was this his father's way of saying sorry? Or just another trick? Maximilian didn't know how to fix things. For the first time in his life, being rich didn't help. The only thing that mattered now was the truth, and his family had lost that a long time ago. That night, the mansion felt quiet and lonely without Sienna. As midnight came, Maximilian sat in the kitchen looking at the stained recipe card from their dinner. The house was silent except for the soft sound of the jacuzzi upstairs. So she had come back. Maximilian stood and walked upstairs without thinking. He reached the master suite. The door was open, and steam came from the bathroom. Sienna sat in the jacuzzi, looking out the big windows at the sparkling bay lights. Her hair was in a loose bun, with curls falling around her shoulders. Without turning, she said, I knew you'd come. It is my house, he said. But they both knew that wasn't the reason. Technically, it's your father's house, Sienna said, and he's the reason I just spent 6 hours watching my mom cry over papers that proved she wasn't crazy. She turned to face him. Her eyes were red but dry. She kept saying maybe she did something wrong, that maybe she lost the files and forgot. Do you know what it's like to see someone you love doubt themselves? Maximilian loosened his tie. My father was wrong. That's it? That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say, Sienna? That I'm sorry? That I'll write your mom a check? I want you to stop acting like this doesn't involve you, she shouted. You left your father's world because it was toxic, but now you're back, living in his house, using his things, continuing the same story. Tell me, Maximilian, what are you really doing here? Maximilian walked to the jacuzzi and sat on the edge, rolling up his sleeves. He was close, but didn't touch her. I thought I came back for closure, he said, to prove I had moved on. And did you? I thought so, until I walked in 4 days ago and found this very annoying woman singing in my father's jacuzzi. That made her smile just a little. And suddenly everything I thought I knew changed, he added. How so? You make me want things I didn't think I could want, he said. You make me question my choices. Maybe I came back not for an ending, but a beginning. Those are dangerous thoughts, Mr. West. But she didn't move away when he reached out and brushed a curl from her cheek. I called my lawyers today, he said. They're creating a trust for your mom. She'll get full payment for lost wages and damages, plus a public apology to clear her name. Sienna grabbed his hand. I don't want your money. It's not my money, it's what she earned. The truth isn't enough without action. Her fingers were warm and wet from the water. And what about us, she asked. What truth will you admit there? That depends, he said. On what? On whether you plan to drown me in that tub for my father's mistakes. She laughed, and the sound echoed in the bathroom. I thought about it, she said, But I'm too tired to clean up after a murder tonight. How generous of you. I'm known for that, she teased. Then her face grew serious. I meant what I said about you being like him. Maximilian's face tensed. But you're like him in the good ways. Strong, smart, stubborn. And you're different in the best way. You face the truth, even when it hurts. Now who's being dangerous? He whispered. She let go of his hand and moved back. This doesn't fix everything. My mom needs time. I need time. I understand. And I'm not quitting. Someone has to keep you humble. And I kind of like this jacuzzi. I noticed. Maximilian smiled. And for what it's worth, I've gotten attached to your bad cooking and Whitney Houston concerts. Sienna splashed water at him. Go away. I'm having a deep emotional moment. At the door, he paused. Sienna H., I'm glad you came back. She didn't answer right away. Just as he was about to leave, she said softly, some things are worth coming back for, even if they're messy, even if they don't make sense. He left her in the warm steam and bubbles, surrounded by things neither of them could name yet. But as he walked down the hallway, he heard her singing again, softly this time. Not for him. For herself. For healing. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was a beginning. Isabella Caldwell sat straight and proud at the big dining room table in the West Mansion. Her purse sat tightly in her lap. Maximilian's lawyers were explaining the new trust. Sienna stood behind her mom with a hand on her shoulder. When they finished, Isabella said, So you think a check will fix 15 years? Mom, Sienna said. No, baby. Let me speak, Isabella said. She looked at Maximilian with a strong, sharp gaze. Your father didn't just take my job. He made me question myself. That changes a person. Maximilian nodded. I don't know what that feels like, and I won't pretend I do. But I know what it's like to carry someone else's shame, to let it control your choices. The trust isn't to erase the past, it's to admit the truth and try to do better. Pretty words from a fancy man, Isabella said, but her eyes were thoughtful. Sienna says you're not what she expected, Isabella added. Mom? Sienna's cheeks turned red. What? You think I don't hear her talking about jacuzzi talks and pasta sauce at midnight? Maximilian saw Sienna's embarrassed face and smiled a little. That's what I mean, Isabella said gently. You see her as a real person, not just the help. Your father never did that. The lawyer shifted, uncomfortable. But Maximilian leaned forward. Miss Caldwell, I spent 12 years trying to prove I wasn't like my father. I made money, started businesses, told myself I was different. But coming back, meeting Sienna, finding those papers, I realized I was still running. I wasn't facing his shadow. Isabella held her handbag tightly, then slowly relaxed her fingers. Now I want to do what is right, not what is easy, she said. This trust is just the start. I'm ready to tell everyone the truth about what really happened. I'll talk to your old work friends and do everything I can to fix your good name. I don't need. Yes, you do. Sienna interrupted. You deserve it, Mom. All of it. Isabella looked at her daughter, her face softening. When did you get so smart, baby girl? Probably when you taught me that telling the truth is more important than being proud. A tear rolled down Isabella's cheek. She quickly wiped it away and stood up tall. Well then, Mr. West, she said, looking at Maximilian, let's talk about the deal. Let's start with a job contract for my daughter. Mom, we already... Hush now. If you're going to keep working in this house, giving the owner googly eyes and using his fancy bathtub, everything has to be proper and legal. Maximilian coughed on his water. One of the lawyers dropped his pen. Sienna looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. But Isabella wasn't finished. And about these dinners I keep hearing about, she went on. In my day, if a man liked a woman, he took her to a real restaurant, not let her almost burn his kitchen down. I didn't burn, Sienna began, but stopped. Wait, court? Maximilian found his voice. Miss Caldwell, I promise. Oh, please, Isabella waved his words away. I wasn't born yesterday. Now about this trust, I'll agree to it on one condition. Name it, Maximilian said. Half of the money will go to a fund for workers who got fired unfairly, people who can't pay for lawyers to fight back against men like your father." Her voice was strong again, but now there was a little hope in it too. Maximilian nodded. "I'll ask the lawyers to write it up today." "Good," Isabella said as she smoothed her skirt. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to talk to my daughter about acting right at work and not using her boss's bathtub." "Oh no," Sienna muttered. "Lawyers, leave the room," Isabella said, and they all left quickly. Then Isabella turned to Maximilian. "One more thing, Mr. West. My daughter has her father's big heart. She forgives too easily. She always sees the good in people. Don't make her regret that." "I won't," Maximilian said quietly. "We'll see," Isabella said, patting his cheek in a way that was both sweet and a little scary. "Now, Sienna, baby, let's talk about why you're taking bubble baths in your boss's bathroom." Maximilian escaped to his office while Isabella's voice faded away behind him. He sat at his desk, breathing in the smell of leather and wood polish, and realized something. He was smiling. For the first time since he came back to the big house, he felt light. The heavy feeling from his dad's past was going away. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Sienna. "My mother just asked if you have honorable intentions. Send help." Another buzz. "Also, she says you're coming to family dinner on Sunday. You don't get to say no. She wants to properly check you out." And another. "This is all your fault. I'm never using that jacuzzi again." Maximilian laughed out loud. The sound echoed in the room that had heard too many serious talks. He texted back, "Yes, you will." Her reply came quickly, "Shut up. I hate that you're right." Maximilian looked at the messages and thought about what Isabella had said, about Sienna's big heart, about seeing the good in people. Maybe that's what had been missing in the house all along. Not money or power, but the ability to see what's real. His phone buzzed again. "Mom says you're taking me to a real fancy dinner tonight. No more kitchen accidents allowed." "It's a date," he replied, before he could change his mind. 3 dots appeared as she typed, disappeared, then came back again. Finally, "Yes, I guess it is." Maximilian leaned back in his dad's chair. The last shadows of the past started to fade. Outside the window, San Francisco sparkled in the sun. It looked full of chances and new beginnings. "You're nervous," Maximilian said, watching Sienna fidget with her napkin at Chat Laurent, the fanciest French restaurant in San Francisco. "I'm not nervous," she said quickly. Then she knocked over her water glass while reaching for the bread. Maximilian caught it. "Okay, maybe a little," she admitted. "This place has more forks than my whole kitchen." She looked beautiful in a dark green dress. Her messy bun was now long, bouncy curls. But what really caught Maximilian's eye was how unsure she looked, so different from her usual bold self. "We can go somewhere else," he offered. "Maybe that taco truck you always talk about." "Don't you dare," Sienna said, sitting up straighter. "Your mom was part of this city's rich crowd. Your dad was like royalty. I need to prove I can fit in this world. If what?" Maximilian asked gently. "If this," she said, waving her hand between them, "turns into something real." Maximilian took her hand. "It already is, since you threw cucumber slices at my head." "I didn't throw them. They flew off my knife." "My mistake," he smiled. "Look around, Sienna. What do you see?" She looked at the fancy room. Crystal lights, waiters in suits, rich people with diamonds. Money. Power. Your world. "No, look closer." She sighed but looked again. Then her eyes changed. "The waiter keeps checking his phone when no one's watching. That couple in the corner is totally sneaking around. He's wearing his wedding ring, but she hides hers in her napkin. And that lady by the window hasn't touched her food. She's too busy watching her date flirt with the wine guy." "Exactly," Maximilian said. "They're all just people trying to look fancy. But you see what's really going on. Always have. Is that why you brought me here? To show I can handle your world?" "I brought you here because this was my dad's favorite restaurant. All his important meetings happened at this table." He tapped the wood. Table 7, always saved for Victor West. Sienna's eyes widened. You're not just taking me to dinner, you're making a statement. Yep. 1, I'm done hiding in my dad's shadow. 2, I'm not ashamed of being with you. And 3, the wine man walked up. Mr. West, your usual wine? No, Maximilian said, smiling at Sienna. My date chooses tonight. The wine man looked surprised. Sienna gave him a look back and said, what wine goes with someone who's trying hard to be different from his dad? The wine man blinked. Something bold, she continued. Something strong, maybe a little wild. Got any fancy California wines that would make old rich people gasp? The wine man smiled. I think I do. After he left, Maximilian grinned. And that's the third statement. You're going to flip my world upside down, aren't you? I already did. Or have you forgotten the state of your kitchen after my last cooking try? Even the fire department remembers. They laughed, and the awkward feeling disappeared. Sienna talked about her childhood, her mom, and her dream to start a center for kids who needed help. Everyone should feel like they belong, she said, pointing with her fork, even in places that feel like they're made to keep people out. Maximilian watched her, amazed. In the soft candlelight, she was glowing, even more than the diamonds around them. What? She asked when she saw him staring. I think I'm falling in love with you, he said before he could stop himself. That's not fair, she whispered. Why not? Because I'm the one who's supposed to blurt things out. You're the careful one, but you make me forget to be careful. Is that bad? She looked at their hands. My mom would say yes, that we're rushing, that there's too much history. And what do you say? I say, I think I'm falling in love with you too, and that scares me. Why? Because I spent years being mad at your family. Now I'm sitting at Victor West's table wearing a dress that costs more than my rent, looking at his son and just seeing you. Not your name or your money, just you. And I don't know what to do with that. Maximilian kissed her hand. Around them, people talked and ate, but they felt alone. We could start by ordering dessert, he said. Something super chocolatey and not at all healthy. Sienna laughed. Then we figure it out, one day at a time, no big plans, just us. Just us? She repeated softly. I like that. The wine man brought a bold California wine that probably made his French heart cry. Sienna smiled at Maximilian, not her usual grin, but something softer. Later, they argued over who paid the bill. She won. They walked by the bay, her shoes in her hand, his hand in hers. They talked about everything and nothing, their laughter echoing across the water. Sitting at his dad's table with a girl who saw the real him, Maximilian knew the bravest thing he ever did was fall in love. The next morning, Sienna slapped the newspaper on the kitchen counter. Maximilian was trying to make waffles. Congrats! We're now a scandal! Maximilian glanced at the paper, then back at the waffle iron. Since when do you read this stuff? He asked. Since my college friend texted me at 6 a.m. with 17 exclamation points. She jumped on the counter and stole a blueberry. They say I'm your mysterious beauty with a sketchy past. The waffles have a sketchy past, Maximilian joked. You're just stealing my fruit. I'm serious. They've got 3 photos of us from last night, one where I almost spit out my wine laughing. That was a great moment. It's not funny. Your work people are probably freaking out. Tech Prince dates the help. It's like a bad TV movie. Maximilian left the waffles and walked over to her. He placed his hands on her waist. First, you're not the help. You are the amazing, stubborn girl who snuck into my house and stole my bathtub. I did not sneak, she began. He kissed her before she could finish. It tasted like blueberries. When he pulled back, she looked less angry. Second, my work people can deal with it. I built these companies myself. They know I'm not like my dad. And third, Maximilian brushed a curl from her cheek. That wine nose photo, first time I've ever seen myself truly happy in a picture. Sienna's eyes softened. She hugged him. You're making it really hard for me to have a proper panic here. You look too good in my kiss the cook apron anyway. Just then, smoke rose from the waffle iron. Move. Kitchen disaster boy. Sienna jumped down. You can't cookie either. No, but I'm great at cleaning up messes. She opened the waffle iron. Inside was a blackened mess. Yep, no saving this. Let's order breakfast burritos and try again tomorrow. Maximilian hugged her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. Is that a metaphor? Maybe. They both smiled. This is just the beginning, isn't it? Sienna asked. Probably. People love drama. We've got money, love, class differences, family messes. Don't forget the sad backstory and a possible happy ending. Of course not. She turned to face him. Does all this really not bother you? Maximilian was quiet. Does it bother you? Not the news, but your world is tricky. People will judge me. And us. Let them. It's not that easy. What happens when rich people ask questions, or I don't know which spoon to use? I'll tell them to focus on work, and we'll use the wrong spoons together, or we'll skip it and have garden picnics. The garden where I accidentally set the bush on fire, it was a tiny fire. She laughed, then got serious. I won't change who I am, not even for you. I'd never want you to, Maximilian said fiercely. You're the realest thing in my life, the only one who sees me, really sees me, and doesn't want me to be something else. Well, Sienna grinned, I wouldn't mind if you cooked better. Now who's asking for changes? They laughed, but then the door rang. Sienna heard the doorbell and felt a little nervous. That must be the breakfast burritos, she said. But I didn't order any. Then the doorbell rang again, this time louder. Sienna and Maximilian looked at each other and walked to the door. At the door stood a fancy-looking woman in her 60s. Her hair was perfect, and she looked very serious. Serafina, Maximilian said in a polite voice. What brings you here? Oh, really, darling, Serafina said. Did you think your mother wouldn't come when her only son is causing a big society mess? Serafina looked at Sienna, who was wearing sleep shorts and a big t-shirt she had borrowed from Maximilian. And you must be the housekeeper, Serafina said. Sienna stood tall. Maximilian felt excited. He had seen that look before, just before Sienna did something amazing. Actually, Sienna said with a big smile, I'm the woman teaching your son how to fail at making waffles. Want to come in? We were about to order breakfast. I know a place that makes burritos with spicy sauce, though it might mess up your pretty lipstick. Serafina's eyebrows went up. Maximilian tried not to laugh. I think, Sienna continued, still smiling, we have a lot to talk about. Like why you never told your son that his dad's favorite restaurant also sells California wine. He thinks they only sell French ones. Serafina opened her mouth, then closed it. Then she did something surprising. She laughed. Oh my, she said, looking at Maximilian. You finally met your match, haven't you? And then the smoke alarm went off. Sienna turned quickly. Did you turn off the waffle iron? I thought you did. They both ran to the kitchen, leaving Serafina at the door. She shook her head, maybe disapproving, maybe amused, or maybe both. Later, Serafina took over the big, fancy dining room. She called it her strategy headquarters. She put society magazines, newspaper clippings, and a long list of events all over the big table. The Harriston's charity party is in 2 weeks, she said, tapping the calendar. It's the perfect time to tell people our version of the story. Sienna, now wearing a beautiful sundress Serafina picked out, looked at Maximilian. I didn't know our relationship needed a story. Everything needs a story, dear, Serafina said kindly but firmly. Right now, people think you're just the housekeeper's daughter who fell in love with the rich man. Mother, Maximilian warned. I'm just repeating what the gossip magazines say, Serafina replied. She slid a magazine across the table. We need to change what people think. We'll make you two San Francisco's favorite couple. Maximilian is the tech genius, and Sienna is the kind girl who helps the community. No, Sienna said firmly. You're not turning my life into a story for the papers. Darling, you don't understand. No, you don't understand, Sienna said. Her voice was strong. She stood up and her chair made a loud sound. My mom worked in houses like this. She used back staircases and didn't speak unless spoken to. She was invisible. I won't pretend to be someone I'm not just to make people happy. The room got very quiet. Maximilian reached under the table to hold her hand, but Sienna was already walking toward the door. "Excuse me," she said. "I need some air." After she left, Serafina looked at her son. "She's very passionate." "She's right," Maximilian said. "And if you want to be in our lives, you need to know. Sienna is not a problem to fix or a story to change. She's the woman I love." "Love won't protect you from real life, Maximilian. Your father." "My father is gone," Maximilian said sharply, "and I'm not like him. I don't care about looking perfect or playing society's game." Serafina's voice became soft. "Then why haven't you sold this house? Why are you still going to board meetings and acting like a perfect CEO? Maximilian wanted to argue, but stayed quiet. His mother always saw through him. "You can't live in both worlds," Serafina said. "You have to choose. It's not fair to Sienna." Before he could speak, the doorbell rang again. This time it was Isabella Caldwell, Sienna's mom. She held a container of food and looked serious. "Serafina West," she said, walking in. "I thought I smelled fancy perfume and bossiness." "Isabella," Serafina said with a cold smile, "still using the back entrance?" "Nope, the front door. My daughter lives here now, or didn't you read the society magazines?" Isabella put the food right on top of Serafina's magazines. "I brought real breakfast, not that tiny fancy stuff you probably ordered." "How thoughtful," Serafina said. Maximilian watched, unsure if he should help or hide. "I saw Sienna in the garden," Isabella said, sounding calm but sharp. She looked upset. "Did you have something to do with that?" "We were just talking about her new place in society," Serafina said. "Her place?" Isabella laughed. "I worked in this house for 15 years. You walked by me like I didn't exist. Your husband fired me to hide his own secrets, so don't try to place my daughter anywhere." "Enough," Maximilian said firmly. He stood up tall, like his father used to, but his words were pure Maximilian. "I'm going to find Sienna. When I come back, the two of you need to get along, or you're both leaving. This house has had enough family fights." He found Sienna sitting on a bench near the rose bushes she had accidentally overwatered once. She was looking at her phone. "Don't search your name online," he said, sitting beside her. "It never ends well." Too late, she showed him her phone. "They say I'm a gold digger with perfect hair and bad taste in clothes." "Your hair is perfect," he said, making her smile. "Your mom thinks she can fix this, that she can make me fit into your world." "It's not my world," he said, turning off her phone gently. "I just live in it sometimes." "But that's the problem," she said. "You go to meetings, make big decisions. You can't just leave that behind." "I'm not going to play two roles anymore," he said. "My mom was right about that. Loving you made me see I want something different." "What do you mean?" "I'm stepping down as CEO," he said. "You can't." "I already did," he said. "Sent the email this morning. I'll still help, but someone else will run the company. I want to focus on what matters." He pulled a paper from his pocket. "This house, we're turning it into a community center, a place that helps families who've been hurt by big companies, and we need someone to run it." "You're offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a purpose, one that honors your mom's story and helps other people too." Sienna looked at the paper, then at the house. "I say, we definitely need a better kitchen," she said, smiling through happy tears. The West Mansion was now a busy place. Workers moved around carrying tools and plans. Sienna stood in a big empty room. "The children's library will go here," she told a worker, "and that wall will have a mural, something bright and fun." Maximilian came in. "Speaking of fun," he said, "our moms are decorating the East Wing together. Should we be worried? Is your mom still trying to paint everything mauve? They're arguing if the Career Center should have paintings or landscapes." He put his arm around her. "I think they enjoy fighting." "Help us all," Sienna joked. The past month had been full of plans and surprises. Serafina was really helping with the community center, especially after Isabella suggested naming the legal department after Victor West, Maximilian's dad. The board approved the funding, Maximilian said. The West Family Foundation is now the West Caldwell Community Trust. Sienna's heart skipped. You didn't have to. Yes, I did, he said. This place is not about fixing old mistakes. It's about building something new with you. Suddenly, a loud crash came from upstairs. Serafina, don't you dare put gold leaf on classroom walls. Isabella yelled. These children deserve beauty, Serafina replied. They need books and computers, not shiny wallpaper. Maximilian winced. Should we stop them? No way. Last time I tried, they teamed up against me. They walked to the kitchen. It was the only room not under construction. Their cooking disasters were now legendary. Workers even brought extra fire extinguishers. The news wants interviews, Maximilian said, about us. Let them wait, Sienna said, sitting on the counter. This place will speak for itself, not through newspapers, but through the lives it changes. Like our moms, she added. Maximilian looked at her with love. You say you can't cook, he said, but you're great at making a recipe for change. Flatterer, she said, kissing him. Another crash upstairs made them laugh again. Then a worker came to them. Miss Caldwell, he said, we found something hidden in the study wall. They went upstairs. There was a small safe inside the wall. Is this your dad's? Sienna asked. Maximilian shook his head. No, this is older. Can you open it? He turned the lock. Click. 1/24/23, Sienna said. My birthday? No, Maximilian said. My mom's birthday, the year she met my dad. The safe opened. Inside were letters and a small jewelry box. Serafina gasped. Victor's letters, she said, from when we were young, before everything. She opened the box and found a simple pearl necklace. He kept all of this, she said, eyes full of tears. Isabella came in quietly, saw what was happening, and gently hugged Serafina. Maybe, Isabella said, those paintings in the Career Center wouldn't be so bad after all. With a little gold leaf, Serafina said. Don't push it, Isabella replied. Sienna leaned on Maximilian. You okay? She whispered. He nodded. You were right. Sometimes people build walls to keep others out. But sometimes they're trying to protect the part of themselves that still believes in love. Love and second chances, Sienna said. Maximilian smiled. Second chances, I like that. Outside, workers kept building. Inside, the house was changing, and upstairs, two moms kept arguing over wallpaper and colors. Think it's too late to run away and get married? Sienna asked, laughing. Probably, Maximilian said, hugging her. Besides, who else would stop our moms from turning this place into a battlefield? True love is overrated, she joked. I should have just stuck to sneaking into rich people's jacuzzis. Speaking of, Maximilian said, eyes shining, the master bathroom is ready. Race you upstairs. They ran like kids, laughing. The house was alive with change, love, and hope. And in the master bathroom, now covered with bubbles and bows, Maximilian smiled. I'm giving you the place where everything started, he said. A bathtub? Sienna said, raising an eyebrow. No, Maximilian said softly. The place where I met a stubborn, wonderful girl who changed my life forever. Incredibly stubborn? She teased. I'm not finished. He took her hands in his. Maximilian held Sienna's hands gently. This bathroom is the last quiet place in the house, he said. Everything else is busy now, classrooms, meeting rooms, and places for the community. But this, he pointed to the big tub that still looked shiny and new, this stays ours. This is where everything started. Sienna felt like she might cry, but she blinked away the tears. You're getting soft, Maximilian, she teased. You're making me soft, Sienna, he said with a smile, pulling her closer. Speaking of which, he said, I have a question. If it's about the colors for the Welcome Center, Sienna said, I already told your mom. Will you marry me? Maximilian asked. Sienna gasped. What? Marry me, he said again, softer this time. Not just because we built this center, Not even because our moms are suddenly best friends. Not even because I love you more than I thought I ever could. Marry me because you came into this house and saw past all the walls, walls my father built and the ones I built to keep people out. Marry me because you make me laugh and want to be better. Marry me because save the rest for the wedding vows, Sienna said, smiling as she kissed him, long and sweet, full of love. When they stopped kissing, Maximilian put something into her hand. It wasn't a ring. It was a key. It's for the front door, he explained. No more sneaking into the bathroom. You spoil all the fun, she joked, but she was smiling as she added the key to her keychain. Suddenly, they heard noise downstairs. The first guests had arrived for the opening ceremony. They could hear Isabella telling the food staff what to do while Serafina was fixing the flowers. The two moms were talking in their usual way, kind of arguing, but full of love. Ready? Maximilian asked. Sienna looked at herself in the mirror. She remembered the girl who first came to this house, angry and unsure. Now she stood proud and strong, wearing a dress that showed she was both smart and proud. Ready, she said. A new beginning. The big hall looked very different now. Before, there were pictures of old West family members on the walls. Now there were bright paintings by local artists. The big staircase was full of people. Leaders from the neighborhood, people who used to work for West Enterprises, and families who would use the new center. Isabella and Serafina stood near the snacks, looking very proud in matching outfits. They had finally agreed on the decorations, fancy enough to make Serafina happy and simple enough for Isabella. Maximilian stood up and spoke. He held Sienna's hand. Welcome to the West Caldwell Community Center, he said. This house used to be about keeping things for our family, but today we're changing that. Sienna stepped forward. For a long time, this big house showed the difference between rich and poor, she said. It showed who belonged and who didn't. But today, we take those walls down. Maximilian smiled and said, starting with this. He pulled off a big cloth from the wall where his father's picture used to hang. Underneath was a big painting of a tree. The roots were made of words like justice, opportunity, and healing. The branches reached up to the sky, with birds flying free. Everyone in the room gasped. Isabella grabbed Serafina's hand. Both moms had tears in their eyes. My father built his life keeping people out, Maximilian said. We're building our life by welcoming people in. Every room in this house has a story, Sienna added. Some are about being unfair, some are about pain, but now we will make new stories, stories about second chances. She thought about the love letters they had found in the secret safe. Stories about bridges, not walls. Stories about seeing people for who they really are, not for what they own or where they came from. Or who they find in their bathtub, Maximilian whispered. Sienna tried not to laugh. The ceremony went on. There were speeches and tours. Their moms took turns crying and also fixing things they thought weren't perfect. Later, when most guests had gone home and the sun was setting over the bay, Sienna went back to the big bathroom. She was singing a Whitney Houston song quietly and filling the tub with warm water and bubbles. Maximilian found her there. Really? He asked, laughing. Of course, she said. It's tradition. She threw him a soft robe, the fancy kind Serafina had insisted on buying. We need to practice using our private spa, she said with a smile. Is that what we're calling it? Would you rather call it the scene of the crime? She teased. Maximilian laughed and took off his jacket. You know, most people would say this is not okay for the boss of a community center. Good thing you're marrying someone who doesn't always follow the rules, she replied. She got into the tub with a happy sigh. Come on, Maximilian, have some fun. You're impossible, he said, loosening his tie. You love it. God help me, I do. They both laughed as they sat in the bubbly water. Their laughter echoed off the fancy marble walls. Downstairs, the last guests were leaving. Isabella and Serafina's voices floated up as they argued about the food. Those crab puffs were so tasty. They were too fancy, just like your pillow choices. A happy ending. In the bathroom where it all started, Maximilian West and Sienna Caldwell made another happy memory. Their love story had begun with a broken heart and a borrowed bathtub. Now it was full of hope and love. "Hey," Sienna said quietly as she leaned against Maximilian's chest, "do you think your dad would be shocked?" Maximilian looked at the woman he loved, at the house filled with new dreams, and at their future together. "I think," he said, "he'd be proud of all of it, even the bathtub part." "Especially the bathtub part," he added, kissing her forehead. Outside, the lights of San Francisco sparkled like dreams. Inside, the bubbles rose and popped like promises. And in the space between the past and the future, two hearts beat together, writing a brand new story about what it means to be home. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Check out our other videos too. See you in the next one.